You ever walk into a room expecting a warm welcome and instead find yourself in what feels like a medieval tribunal? That was me last Sunday, carrying a bottle of red wine I thought would earn me a few brownie points with the in-laws. Turns out, I should have brought armor. The dinner table looked like something out of a lifestyle magazine. Crystal glasses, linen napkins, and enough silverware to make me question which fork was for the salad. At the head of the table sat my wife, Elena, wearing that smile I used to think was for me. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Next to her, like a king on loan from a bad Netflix series, was her older brother, Marco. The guy had the posture of someone who'd never worked a day in his life, but carried the confidence of a man who invented work. He motioned to the empty chair across from him. "Sit," he said, like I was some stray dog they'd decided to let inside for the winter. I smiled, slid into the chair, and poured myself a modest glass of wine. That's when Marco dropped the line that still echoes in my head like a bad chorus. "In order to eat at this table," he said, his voice dripping with contempt, "you must be equal to us." For a second, I thought it was a joke. I even chuckled, softly, politely, the way you do when someone tells a joke that isn't funny, hoping they'll spare you further humiliation. But Marco didn't smile. Neither did Elena. She just watched me, lips curved in that almost smirk that said, "Don't make a scene, dear." Equal to them. As if marriage was some corporate merger and I hadn't brought enough assets to the table. My fork hovered over the roasted lamb, and I swear I heard the soundtrack of my life screech to a halt. "You mean financially?" I asked, keeping my tone light. "Financially. Socially. In every way that matters," Marco said, swirling his wine like some villain in a French drama. "This family has standards." I glanced at Elena, waiting for her to laugh, to call him out, to do something. Instead, she leaned back, sipped her wine, and smiled. Like this was a conversation they'd rehearsed. Like Marco was just the messenger. That smile hit me harder than the words. Because in that instant, I realized something chilling. She agreed with him. Something in me went cold. Not angry. Just cold, like the part of me that cared packed its bags and left before dessert. I set down my fork, reached for my left hand, and slid off my wedding ring so smoothly, it was almost poetic. I placed it on the table, right there between the lamb and the arrogance, and stood up. "Elena," I said, my voice calm enough to scare even me. "Enjoyed dinner." Marco smirked, probably thinking I'd storm out like a soap opera husband. Instead, I walked out slowly, deliberately, each step echoing through that cathedral of pretension they called a home. The last thing I saw before the door closed behind me was Elena's face, still smiling, but her eyes flickering with something new. Was it fear? Guilt? Or just the realization that the man she thought would beg had just written the first line of a very different story? The drive home that night should have been quiet, but inside my head it sounded like a demolition site. Marco's voice kept replaying on a loop. "In order to eat at this table, you must be equal to us." Equal? The man still lived in his parents' guest house, financed by Daddy's retirement fund. If irony were currency, he'd be a billionaire. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the car for a good 5 minutes, staring at the ring-shaped dent on my finger. Funny thing, 4 years of marriage, and that tiny circle suddenly felt like a shackle I'd finally sawed off. My phone buzzed. "Elena, we need to talk." Another buzz. "Please don't do this." And then, like clockwork, the guilt grenades. "You're overreacting. Marco didn't mean it like that. Can you just come back? We'll sort this out." I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, I poured myself a glass of bourbon, the good one I'd been saving for our anniversary, which, if you ask me now, should have been a national day of mourning. I sipped, stared at the blank TV screen, and thought about every little detail I'd ignored over the years. The way Elena started correcting how I pronounced charcuterie. Her sudden obsession with status and networking. The way Marco's opinions somehow became law in our house. Somewhere between the second and third sip, a realization hit me like a freight train. This wasn't just about dinner. It never is. This was about control. A power play. They wanted me to feel small, like a guest in my own life. And that's when I smiled. The kind of smile you wear when you know you've been underestimating yourself for far too long. I didn't text Elena back. I didn't call. I let her stew in that silence. Because silence, my friend, is louder than any argument. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up an old folder labeled "Just in Case." Inside were things Elena didn't know I had: screenshots, copies of joint financial records, and a PDF of our prenup. You know, that boring little document she signed when love was young and lawyers were just an afterthought. By midnight, I had a plan. A plan that didn't involve begging to sit at their precious dinner table, but rather flipping it over and watching their silverware scatter like roaches. At 12:07 a.m., my phone buzzed again. This time, Marco's name lit up the screen. "Be a man and fix this. Don't make my sister regret marrying you." I stared at the message, took another sip of bourbon, and laughed. Loud, deep, unfiltered. Because what Marco didn't know was that regret was about to become a family heirloom in their household. I put the phone down, opened a new tab, and typed 3 words that marked the beginning of their nightmare. Hire private investigator. You ever notice how easy it is to ruin someone's life in 2025? All you need is a Wi-Fi connection and the willpower of a man who's been humiliated in front of a $300 charcuterie board. By 1 a.m., I had hired a private investigator named Ross. Guy came highly recommended on a forum for discreet marital inquiries. The kind of place where hope goes to die and screenshots go to thrive. Ross was all business. "Send me names, addresses, and anything suspicious you've noticed," he said over the phone, his voice calm, like he was asking about the weather and not prepping for social carnage. I sent him Elena's full name, Marco's details, and a note that read, "Check for financial skeletons, social skeletons, and actual skeletons if needed." While Ross worked his magic, I went to work on my own little side project. Remember that prenup I mentioned? Turns out, Elena signed a clause that made her allergic to infidelity, figuratively, of course. If she cheated, she forfeited all claims to marital property. Cute, right? Like a booby trap, she walked into blindfolded. By morning, Elena's texts had evolved from pleading to panic mode. "Why aren't you answering? Please don't do anything stupid. We can fix this." I didn't respond. Instead, I sent one word: working, which was technically true. I was working on dismantling the illusion of superiority that Marco and his sister wrapped themselves in like a luxury throw blanket. 3 days later, Ross called. His tone was casual, but what he said was the equivalent of dropping a nuke in a sandbox. "Your brother-in-law Marco," he started. "He's broke. Like, owes money to the wrong people broke. He's been living off credit cards and your father-in-law's retirement account. That Range Rover he flexes on Instagram? Leased. And get this, he's using his parents' address to dodge collection agencies." I almost felt bad. Almost. "And your wife?" Ross continued. "She's, let's say, socially active. There's a guy, fitness trainer named Leo. Lots of late-night texts. Private sessions at his gym. His Instagram is basically a shrine to his abs, and your wife's comments are," he paused, searching for a diplomatic term, "enthusiastic." "Send me everything," I said. My voice didn't crack, didn't shake. Because honestly, I wasn't surprised. That smile at the dinner table had told me everything I needed to know. Within hours, my inbox was a treasure chest of betrayal, screenshots, time-stamped photos, even a lovely little video of Elena giggling in Leo's car, sipping a protein shake like it was champagne. I stared at that screen for a long moment. Then I laughed. Not the bitter, broken laugh of a man crushed by love, but the low, slow chuckle of someone who just realized he holds the matchbook and the world around him is very, very flammable. That night, I drafted phase 1 of my plan. It had 3 steps. Secure assets. Every joint account would become a solo act. Expose the prince and the princess. Publicly, but elegantly. Turn their arrogance into their cage. At 2 a.m., I wired most of our liquid funds into an account Elena didn't know existed. Then I closed the joint credit cards. By sunrise, her limitless shopping days had officially expired. At 8 a.m., Marco called me. His voice dripped with hostility. "What the hell did you do to Elena's accounts?" "Oh, you mean our accounts?" I said calmly. "I just made sure I'm equal to you, Marco. Remember? That was the rule." He cursed, hung up, and I swear I heard the sound of his fragile ego shattering like a wine glass on marble. But that was nothing compared to what was coming next. Because phase 2 wasn't about money. It was about reputation. And Marco's was about to become a bonfire at a family barbecue. You know that old saying, revenge is a dish best served cold. Yeah, well, I decided to serve it cold, plated on fine china, and garnished with Marco's ego. By day 5, the financial noose had tightened nicely. Elena's text messages had evolved into full-blown operatic drama. My card declined at the salon today. What did you do? This is humiliating. Fix it. Then came Marco, calling me with the rage of a man who just realized his allowance was cut off. You think this is funny? My sister is crying her eyes out. Oh, Marco, I said, sipping coffee. If she's crying now, just wait until dinner next Sunday. Click. Silence. God, that sound is satisfying. The setup. Step 1 of phase 2 was simple, exposure with elegance. No screaming matches, no dramatic scenes, just quiet revelations in the right rooms at the right time. So I RSVP'd to the next family dinner. The same one where Marco played king and Elena smiled like Cleopatra watching her empire expand. Only this time, I wasn't walking in as the humble husband. This time I brought receipts. Screenshots of Elena's texts to her gym god Romeo. The video of her sipping protein shakes in his car like they were lovers sharing a milkshake in a rom-com. And Marco's little financial secrets. Every debt, every collection notice, every humiliating dollar he owed. But I wasn't going to show these cards yet. Oh no, I wanted a stage, an audience, and an element of surprise. And nothing says family theater like their precious dinner table. The spark. Saturday night. I showed up in a tailored navy suit Elena bought me last Christmas. Thought I'd give her one last chance to appreciate her investment before I turned her world inside out. When I walked in, Marco smirked like a man convinced he'd broken me. Elena looked relieved. Big mistake. Decided to come back, huh? Marco said, swirling his wine like a villain who's about to monologue. Of course, I said smoothly, taking my seat. Wouldn't miss dinner with the family. After all, we're equals now, aren't we? Elena's smile faltered. Marco frowned. What's that supposed to mean? I leaned back, calm as a man holding the detonator. Just that I've been busy this week, leveling the playing field. Their eyes narrowed. They smelled smoke, but had no idea where the fire was. Perfect. As appetizers arrived, I dropped the first spark. Oh, by the way, Marco, I said casually. I ran into someone from Ridgewood Collections yesterday. Funny guy, said he's been trying to reach you about a what was it? $42,000 balance. The fork froze halfway to his mouth. Elena blinked like she'd just discovered gravity was optional. I don't know what you're talking about, Marco stammered. Of course not, I said, smiling politely. Must be a mix-up. I mean, you're equal to me, right? Financially, socially, in every way that matters. Boom. Direct hit. His jaw clenched so tight, I thought his veneers might crack. Elena tried to recover. Let's not ruin dinner with nonsense. Oh, absolutely, I agreed, swirling my wine. Wouldn't want to ruin the evening, especially when there's so much more to come. And that's when I saw it, the flicker of panic in her eyes. Because deep down, she knew. The man who slid his ring off without a word, he wasn't coming back to beg. He was coming back to bury. If dinner was a battlefield, then the first course was just the opening salvo. Marco was still chewing on that little truth bomb about his debt when I decided it was time to light the fireworks. The main course arrived, roasted lamb again, because apparently creativity is beneath people who think superiority is hereditary. Marco reached for the carving knife like he was cutting through all his insecurities. Elena poured herself another glass of wine, her hand trembling just slightly. Perfect. They were both right where I wanted them. So, I began, voice smooth as butter, since we're talking about equality. Elena, how's the gym going? Still doing those private sessions? Her hand froze on the wine glass. A single drop of red slid down the stem like blood on marble. What do you mean? She asked, her tone too casual. Oh, you know, I shrugged, the sessions with Leo. The one with the six-pack and the motivational quotes. How do they go again? Push harder, baby, you've got this? Or was it meet me in the car after your husband goes to work? The silence that followed was so thick you could spread it on toast. Marco's fork clattered onto his plate. Elena's face drained of color. then flushed crimson like she'd swallowed a furnace. "You're out of line," Marco barked, voice shaking. I turned to him, smiling like a man in control of the weather. "Out of line? Marco, my guy, I've barely stepped onto the field. Would you like me to read the texts? Or maybe show the video? The one where Elena's giggling in Leo's car, drinking protein shakes like it's champagne?" Elena's lips parted, but no words came out. Just a strangled little gasp, the sound of a queen watching her castle walls crumble. "Listen," she started. "No." I cut in, my voice low and deadly calm. "You listen. You both sat here last week and told me I wasn't equal to you. And you smiled, Elena. God, that smile. Like I was some stray dog begging for scraps at your royal table. But here's the thing." I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table, locking eyes with her. "You're not royalty. You're a cheater. And Marco?" I shifted my gaze to him. "You're broke. Two peas in the same rotten pot. And the best part? You tried to play king and queen in a house built on my dime." Marco surged to his feet, face red as a stop sign. "Get out," he roared, slamming his fist on the table. I stood slowly, buttoned my jacket, and gave them both the kind of smile you save for funerals. "Oh, I'm leaving. But not before I thank you. Because tonight marks the beginning of something beautiful." Elena's voice cracked, raw with fear now. "What are you talking about?" I stepped toward the door, pulling out my phone and waving it slightly. "You'll see. Just make sure you check your socials in the morning." "Oh, and Elena?" I looked back over my shoulder. "Tell Leo the first said hi." And then I walked out, leaving behind a table piled high with lamb, lies, and two people who'd just realized the storm wasn't coming. It was already here. You've never woken up to the sound of your phone vibrating like an angry hornet nest. You've never posted nuclear truth bombs on social media at 2 a.m. By morning, my Instagram story wasn't a story, it was a saga. I didn't write a word of commentary, just screenshots. Elena's text to Leo, "Last night was amazing, can't stop thinking about you." A photo of her hand on his thigh in that obnoxious Jeep of his. And, my personal favorite, a short clip of them kissing in the gym parking lot. Time-stamped. High definition. Courtesy of Ross the PI, who should honestly get a medal. The last slide? A picture of my left hand, ringless, with the caption, "Turns out I was never equal. Guess I'll just be free instead." By 8 a.m., my phone looked like a slot machine on steroids. Calls, texts, DMs, everything short of a carrier pigeon. Elena called 17 times. Marco called 9. Even her mother tried twice, leaving voicemails that sounded like a mix of anger and panic. I didn't answer any of them. I was too busy sipping coffee and scrolling through the comments. Yikes, caught in 4K. Bro, you're a legend. That guy Leo better move to another planet. But here's where things got really good. Someone tagged Leo. And within minutes, the man himself jumped into the comment section with a masterpiece of self-preservation. "This is out of context." "Context, Leo?" "Sure, buddy. That's why her lipstick was on your face and your hand was halfway to Narnia." By noon, Elena finally sent a text that made me grin so hard I almost spilled my coffee. "Please, can we meet and talk? You're destroying everything." "Everything? Oh, sweetheart, we were just getting started." The plot twist. While the internet was setting fire to Elena's reputation, Ross called with something that made my day. Hell, maybe my decade. "You're gonna love this," he said. "Remember Marco's debt? Turns out, he's been investing other people's money. Family money. There's a guy named Salvatore, runs a certain type of business. Not the legal kind. Marco owes him 50 grand. And guess whose name he dropped as a guarantor?" I frowned. "Don't say it." Ross laughed. "Oh, I'm saying it, yours. Your name is all over some very interesting IOUs." For a moment, I was silent. Not because I was scared, but because I was in awe of the stupidity. Marco had signed my name on illegal debts. And that, my friend, turned this little domestic drama into a full-blown cinematic revenge thriller. "Get me proof," I told Ross. "Every document, every signature. We're about to make Marco famous." I hung up, stared out the window at a world that suddenly felt full of possibilities, and whispered to myself, "They wanted me to be equal. Fine, I'll be equal to Godzilla." By the time Sunday rolled around, the internet had already declared me a folk hero. Elena, on the other hand, was trending for all the wrong reasons. Her gym god Leo deactivated his Instagram after someone commented, "Bro, blink twice if you're being trained in loyalty." Marco, radio silent, which usually means trouble, or, in his case, bankruptcy with a sprinkle of organized crime. That afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message from Elena. "Please, just one conversation. For us." Us. The audacity. I ignored it. 5 minutes later, another buzz. "Marco wants to talk too. We can fix this if you stop now." Fix this? Honey, this isn't a crack in drywall. This is the house collapsing because you burned it down with a protein shake and bad decisions. Still, I was curious. So I texted back. "Fine. Neutral ground. Your father's house. Tonight." If they wanted a peace summit, they'd get one. Spoiler. This wasn't going to be a treaty. It was going to be the Versailles of family drama. The meeting. I walked in wearing the same navy suit from last week, the one Elena bought when she still thought I was her trophy. Marco was already there, pacing like a caged lion in a discount suit. Elena sat on the couch, mascara running like black rivers. Her parents hovered in the background, faces pale like extras in a ghost movie. Finally, Marco snapped. "You've made your point. Enough of this circus." Circus? I laughed softly. "Marco, you forged my name on mob money. You don't get to call anything a circus when you're the clown juggling fire." His jaw tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone, opened Ross's email, and projected a lovely little PDF onto their flat screen. Marco's IOUs, signed in my name. Interest rates that would make the devil sweat. And a photo of Marco shaking hands with a man who definitely wasn't in the Chamber of Commerce. Gasps. Elena's mother clutched her pearls like she'd just found out Jesus had a TikTok. "See," I said, strolling toward Marco. I was going to walk away quietly. "But then you decided to drag my name into your sewer. So now, Marco," I tapped the screen, "I own you. Every asset, every car, every fake status symbol you've been parading around. Gone. Consider this your equality package." "You can't do this," he growled. "Oh, I already did. Liens are being filed as we speak. Your accounts? Frozen. Your credit? A smoking crater. And when Salvatore comes looking for his money, guess whose name he won't be dragging through the mud? Mine." Elena jumped in, tears streaking her cheeks. "Please, stop. This isn't you. We can work this out." I turned to her, calm as a surgeon with a scalpel. "Work it out? Elena, you cheated. Lied. Sat there smiling while your brother humiliated me. And now you want mercy? Sweetheart, I'm fresh out." I grabbed my coat, headed for the door, then paused. "Oh, and Marco? Tell Salvatore I said hi." "Actually don't. He'll be too busy looking for you." The door shut behind me with the finality of a coffin lid. If you've ever wondered how fast arrogance turns to desperation, I can tell you. Under 48 hours. 2 days after the peace summit, Elena showed up at my door. No warning, no makeup, just a designer coat thrown over sweatpants that probably cost more than my first car. Her eyes were swollen from crying, or maybe from realizing Sephora doesn't do refunds on dignity. I opened the door halfway, leaning against the frame like a man with all the time in the world. "What do you want, Elena?" Her voice cracked. "Please, can we talk? Alone?" "Alone," I repeated, pretending to think. Funny word. Kinda like loyalty. Remember that one? She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I made a mistake. A stupid, meaningless mistake. Don't let Marco drag us both down. We can still fix this. Start over." "Start over?" I laughed, cold and low. "Sweetheart, you didn't hit the reset button. You smashed it with a hammer, set it on fire, and danced on the ashes with your gym buddy." Her tears spilled over. "I'll sign whatever you want. Take everything. Just don't ruin me completely." There it was. The confession. Not out of guilt, but out of fear. And fear, my friend, is the currency of revenge. "Sign everything?" I asked softly. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling. I opened the door wider, gestured toward the kitchen table where a neat little stack of documents sat waiting. "Divorce papers, asset transfer agreements. Thank you, Ross." He drafted them faster than a Vegas wedding. Elena sat down, hands shaking as she signed away her future one page at a time. The only sound was the scratch of the pen and her quiet sobbing. When she finished, I gathered the papers, tucked them into a folder, and smiled. "Thank you," I said. "You just made my life so much easier." She looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. "So you'll stop?" "Oh, Elena," I said gently, almost kindly. "No. I said I'd take everything. I never said I'd stop." The color drained from her face as I walked her to the door and closed it softly behind her. Meanwhile, in Marco's world, while I was securing my freedom, Marco was learning the hard way that debt collectors don't RSVP, they just show up. According to Ross, two large gentlemen paid him a visit that afternoon. Let's just say Marco's Range Rover left the driveway, without Marco in it. By nightfall, his Instagram went dark. No more champagne selfies. No more #bosslife. Just silence, the kind that smells like duct tape and regret. And then came the twist I didn't see coming. Ross called, his voice sharp with excitement. "You're gonna love this. Remember Elena's lover boy, Leo? Turns out he's not just a trainer. He's married. And his wife? Oh, she's a lawyer." I froze, then grinned so wide it hurt. "Ross," I said, "get me her number." Because if Elena thought losing me was the worst thing that could happen, she hadn't met karma yet. The next morning, I sat in my car outside a quiet suburban house, sipping coffee like it was popcorn at a movie premiere. On the porch, Leo's wife, Claire, opened the door when I knocked. She was tall, sharp-featured, with eyes like knives and the posture of a woman who could argue a priest into paying taxes. "You must be him," she said coolly, no trace of surprise. I handed her a sleek black envelope. Inside, every photo, every message, every glorious shred of Elena and Leo's betrayal. She flipped through the evidence like a lawyer reviewing a case file. Calm, precise, deadly. When she finished, she closed the folder and smiled. A slow, predatory smile that made me almost pity Leo. Almost. "Thank you," she said. "I'll handle it from here." And oh, did she. By lunchtime, Leo's social media lit up like a dumpster fire in July. Screenshots everywhere. Claire's caption, "When your husband trains more than muscles." Comments poured in like an avalanche. "Bro, delete your account. Elena's not even a main character in her own scandal." "Claire, you're a queen." Leo went private within an hour. "Elena?" She called me 20 times, left voicemails dripping with hysteria. "Why would you do this? You've ruined my life." "Sweetheart, you spelled ruined wrong. It's spelled self-inflicted." Marco's freefall. Meanwhile, Marco was busy starring in his own horror show. Ross texted me a blurry photo of Marco at what looked like a rundown warehouse, flanked by two men who screamed, "Collections Department." One of them was holding Marco's Rolex. The caption? "Payment plan in progress." Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. By evening, my phone buzzed again. Elena this time. A text that almost made me laugh out loud. "Please, stop. Marco can't take it anymore. He's talking crazy." "Crazy?" "Lady, he forged my name on mob IOUs and told me to be equal. He's lucky all I took was his reputation and not his kidneys." But here's the part that sealed my grin for the rest of the night. Claire called back. Her voice was calm, almost cheerful. "Just thought you'd like to know," she said. "Leo's moving out tonight. Without a car, without cash." "And Elena?" "I filed a defamation suit for those little comments she made about me on Instagram. Should keep her busy for a while." I chuckled. "Claire, you're terrifying. I respect that." "Oh," she added, "and thanks for the motivation. I'm taking half his gym in the divorce." Ladies and gentlemen, karma just upgraded to ultra deluxe. They say revenge isn't healthy. Maybe not, but my God, does it feel nutritious. 2 weeks after Elena signed everything over, the dust had settled into a scene so poetic it could have been written by Shakespeare on tequila. Elena, living in a tiny rental on the edge of town, her Instagram gone dark, her designer clothes listed on secondhand apps under the username newbeginnings_22. The divorce papers were filed, the settlement ironclad, thanks to that little clause about infidelity. She walked away with nothing but a hangover of bad decisions. Marco. Oh, Marco was starring in a real-life episode of Catch These Hands. Ross sent me an update. The guys Marco owed money to had repossessed everything. The Range Rover, the fake Rolex, even the espresso machine he used for Instagram Reels. Last I heard, he was working as a consultant, which is mob speak for don't ask questions if you want to keep your teeth. As for Leo, his gym's new tagline should be, now with fewer affairs. Claire took half his business, his car, and, if her Instagram posts were any clue, his soul. She's living her best life, sipping champagne in Bali while Leo trains retirees in a strip mall. My final move. I didn't just want revenge. I wanted closure, the kind that leaves a taste sweeter than the bourbon I poured the night I walked out. So I hosted a little party at my downtown condo, a celebration of freedom, close friends, good whiskey, and laughter that didn't feel forced for the first time in years. Halfway through the night, I stepped onto the balcony, city lights glittering like promises below me. My phone buzzed with one last message from an unknown number. You win. Please, just stop. I stared at it for a long moment, then typed back 2 words. We're equal. Then I blocked the number, slid my phone into my pocket, and raised my glass. To betrayal, I said to the night air, the gift that keeps on giving. The city swallowed my laughter whole.